Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. We have some amazing channelings from Quo today that deal with a variety of topics, from the New Age energies, the manifestation, to the Sinkhole of Indifference. These channelings are fairly new, coming from 2020. There are 40 years of channelings, and there's so many, it's amazing. If you don't know, Quo is a social memory complex, which is a group of higher density beings. You can refer to that as a group of beings that have spiritually evolved to a higher level, that are telepathically channeling through a group called LL Research. And they answer questions on spiritual topics, and a lot of what they say is amazing. You don't even have to believe in channeling. Just listen to what they say. They're amazing teachers. We began with a channeling delivered on January 4th, 2020. I am Quo, and am with this instrument in this group, as we have been called to your group to speak those words of inspiration that may have meaning to you. We greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, which we are all a part. We thank you again, as always, for inviting our presence into your group. This is our opportunity to be of service in a manner which you have requested. The answering of questions that are upon your hearts and within your minds, and this is a joyful honor and duty which we undertake today. As we always do, we thank you for taking those words and thoughts that we offer you and using them as you will, and for leaving behind the ones that have no meaning for you at this time. This small favor allows us a greater leeway in our expression of information, and information that might be helpful to you today. At this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. Kathy asks, yes, Quo, thank you. I have a question that relates to the New Age energies coming in from a direction 20 degrees east of magnetic north, which was chosen by Jim, Carla, and Don for the direction that Carla's had to be directed toward because of the New Age energies coming in at that time weekly, or more weekly than perhaps today. Ra said that this was a free will choice of the group, and they chose that direction rather than magnetic north because it would be a good aid to narrow band meditation. They also referred to this, the energies coming in cosmically from this direction, as New Age energies that would soon be paramount for Earth. And my question is, what does that mean? Are those energies now paramount? And this was something that Jim alluded to recently in his book, The Same Question. What can you tell us about these energies, and are we now finding them stronger for us? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my sister. Indeed, at the time at which this information was transmitted by those of Ra to the support group through the one known as Carla, these energies of fourth density were somewhat distant, shall we say, in their origination and in their application by entities of this vibration upon planet Earth. Therefore, at that time it was helpful to orient both the pyramid, which this instrument had constructed in the yard where the support group dwelled, and the bed upon which the instrument for the Ra contact rested during the contact. This allowed both the instrument for the Ra contact and any of the entities within the group who used the pyramid to enhance their meditations to perceive the greater vibration or density of love in the fourth density vibrations that were then beginning to be felt upon this sphere. In the succeeding years, these energies have indeed become paramount, and that they have engulfed the planet in a manner which makes available these loving and understanding energies by any who are open to them. At this time, however, it would not be appropriate to say that they are only from the direction of 20 degrees east of north, for their presence is so paramount as to become omnipresent, so that any entity attempting to perceive their direction would perceive them as being from 360 degrees surrounding the entire planet. These energies have the capacity to enhance the seeking, the direction of any entity who is conscious of them and sensitive to them. The direction of the positively oriented entities, therefore, has the chance of being enhanced in both the purity and the power of the perception of those energies, so that the spiritual journey may be intensified as if one were to place a magnifying glass upon it, and visualize the qualities of the seeking being purified and made more potent by these energies. This allows the positively oriented seeker to move more steadily along the spiritual path, being able to utilize catalyst that comes before it in a more proficient manner. However, these entities that comprise the great majority of the population of your planet Earth, which have no discernible spiritual path and appreciation of the transformation into fourth density now occurring, may also find that their experience of their incarnation is intensified in a manner which requires a more conscious utilization of their catalyst within the daily round of activities. Since so many have the distortion of doubt, confusion, anger, separation, and so forth as their daily grist for the mill, shall we say, this intensification of the fourth density energies cause such entities to become more of that which they are expressing in their life experience, be it confusion, doubt, anger, jealousy, and so forth. This enhances the path that they are upon as well as it does the positive path, and in the same fashion, one may also assume correctly that the negatively oriented entities are also able to utilize these energies in their own fashion to pursue their path of service to self. Is there another query, my sister? I've got one, I'd like to explore the idea of manifestation. It's a very common term in the New Age communities. In terms of the phrase that's used a lot, we manifest our own reality. And there's the idea of the law of attraction, which says that we attract all of our experiences and circumstances to us in some way. So I would like to understand the Confederation's perspective of the concept of manifestation and how it relates to the path of the positive seeker. I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. Indeed, the manifestation of that which becomes true experience for any conscious seeker of truth is in direct proportion of the purity of such seekers seeking. The desire, the will, and the faith in the process is that which allows the seeker of truth to become aware of both the pre-incarnatively programmed process of learning within the incarnation and the conscious perception by the seeker of this pre-incarnative programming as it relates to the catalyst that one encounters in the daily experience. The manifestation of the qualities of love and understanding in some fashion, whether it be literally or symbolically, is the harvest of the fruits of the desire of the will, of the pre-incarnative choices of the catalyst facing the seeker constantly as it moves through its incarnation. This type of manifestation is a product then of many factors which the conscious seeker has determined by its own choosing and has enhanced by its continued processing and pursuing during the incarnation. The manifestation of any particular type of quality, be it understanding, unconditional love, acceptance, service to others, and so forth, is also intensified in its manifested state, so that there is more to appreciate, more to work upon, and receive a benefit from, as the seeker then is able to see the manna from heaven, shall we say, as it falls into the consciousness of the seeker. This manner, this bread of life, is that which nourishes the soul, enhances the mental capacities that feed the body as well, so that the seeker is nourished upon this journey of seeking by that which it seeks, and that which it perceives, and that which it processes, and that which it produces as the fruit of this entire energy expenditure. Therefore, the manifestation is a product of many efforts of the seeker of truth, both before and during the incarnational experience. Is there a further query, my brother? If a seeker desires something, a set of circumstances or resources they would like in order to further their service, or even if it's just something they want, is it better for them to use that desire as catalyst and try to understand why they desire something that they don't have and why they are in that circumstance, or should they attempt to manifest the things that they are lacking in order to further their service? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. This is a type of dilemma, shall we say, that the conscious seeker of truth may face at various times within its incarnational experience. The primary goal of each seeker is the opening of the heart in unconditional love, so that all response to catalyst may be imbued with this loving vibration that attempts to give of the self to all others who are within the evident reach or realm of the seeker of truth. As the seeker desires certain aspects or manifestations of that which it feels it needs within this process of seeking and proceeding along its own spiritual path, it is well to keep in perspective that which is desired, so that the desire does not become greater than the overall desire to seek the light and the love of the one infinite creator within all beings and within all experiences. Thusly, if this perspective can be maintained by the seeker of truth, it does no harm to ask for certain supplements or instruments or evidence of aid to the seeker. However, this is most salient that the seeker of truth seek first, as you might say, the kingdom of heaven, that all else will be added unto it. Is there a further query, my brother? Quote, I'm interested in what Ra calls the sinkhole of indifference. They coined that term to describe the population of our planet which has not polarized. Presumably over a long period of time, this group is not making a choice between service to others or service to self. So I'm wondering if the sinkhole of indifference operates as a sort of collective gravity well that holds people in a state of indifference. An analogy came to me to help conceptualize this, and it's to imagine the effect of the ambient temperature in an environment. Objects within a room or larger environment will take on the temperature of that environment unless there is some input that allows them to change temperature. Say like electricity that can heat something up above room temperature or keep something cold below room temperature. I liken that to the will and faith necessary to polarize. Anyway, is the sinkhole of indifference something like a collective gravity well that requires will and faith to move outside of? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. We believe that you have quite eloquently stated the basic principle of your analogy of the sinkhole of indifference, being that place wherein there is, shall we say, a momentum of indifference, which is a paradoxical way of stating it, we realize. The indifference that is expressed by those entities which do not find it possible within their own being to generate the desire to seek beyond the nature of their daily round of activities, beyond the mundane world, beyond that which they have always known. They seek only to reproduce the day before, the getting of the job, the making of the money, supporting of the family, gaining stature in the community, and so forth. These are possible tools for enhancing the journey which are not being utilized by entities which have no concept of that which is more than the experience they have previously had. They are unable to generate the faith or the will in any concept beyond the mundane world. They have this general feeling that this world is all that there is, that there is a beyond to this world totally unknown to them and unimportant to them as long as they are able to provide themselves and their family with the basic ingredients of survival. The sinkhole of indifference then begins to draw all into it that are of this nature, that have no concept of moving beyond that which is in their lives at present, and that which has been as it is now. So this is a kind of momentum of a reverse order that does not allow movement forward in consciousness. The heart is hardened, the mind is closed, the movement is minuscule, thus there is no progress in the spiritual sense. This lack of progress then has a ramification, the continued reducing of potential progress in what you would call their future experiences. That is their own reward for the lack of effort that they have made, shall we say. It is a difficult situation for entities to escape, for it has been their experience in other planetary influences where they were also unable to generate the faith and will that would take them forward into the fourth density of love and understanding, and had therefore the necessity of repeating that experience upon your Mother Earth. This sinkhole of indifference then becomes their reality and encases them within its structured walls. This is very little chance, it would seem, that such entities would have any possibility of moving beyond their self-created prisons. However, we would remind each present that at some point there could be a planetary catastrophe of such a nature that all entities upon the planet would then see the folly and futility of holding on to that which has been, for it has brought them to the brink of catastrophe and destruction, so that a response could be generated that would be the positively polarizing choice of polarity, all in an instant, so that this planet could shine as that which imbues all entities with the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Though this possibility is seemingly minuscule in its potential, it is ever possible, my friends. Is there another query at this time? I have a couple of quick follow-ups to that question. Thank you so much, Quo. One is about what causes or contributes to this sinkhole of indifference. It seems like you were saying habituation is one primary cause. It's just what entities are used to over who knows how many incarnations and planets. I think another is the diversity of planetary origins on this planet. Are there any other significant contributing factors to why so many are in a sinkhole of indifference? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. Again, we appreciate your analysis of the situation, for many of these entities have had these types of experiences upon other planetary influences, or they were, shall we say, not energetically processing catalyst in a conscious manner at any time during the incarnation, so that the possibility of such processing was removed from their concept of how the life might be lived and enhanced. The sowing of indifference, then, began as a seeding of consciousness that produced the mistaken conclusion that the present moment experience was all that was available. Thus, the movement beyond the present moment experience was not sought as an alternative to existing within that moment, self-created by entities that had little success in seeing the greater view of the life experience. These entities also had little contact, therefore, with the greater being, their higher self or unconscious mind, so that there was little chance that pre-incarnative choices could be made more clearly observable or perceived by these entities. Thus, by not being able or willing to move beyond the present moment self-constructed, they found themselves within a bind in which the mind was unable to see any further than the image of the self that had been projected by time and experience in previous incarnations that had carried forth into the present incarnation in each instance. Thus, there was the slowing of any forward movement, so that the entities began in a metaphysical sense to go round and round instead of moving outside of the circle, outside of the previous conception of the self, and begin to allow perceptions of all kinds to expand into greater and greater views of the self, other selves, and the world around all. Therefore, these entities have experienced a kind of drudgery or dragging of energies that are available to all in the beginning of each third density experience. It is difficult to say precisely how the beginning of such dragging or drudgery occurs within the beginning third density experience, for all at that point have some desire to move forward. There is within each entity a kind of spark of intuition and inspiration that each begins the third density experience with at some point. As this spark is not fed and the fire begins to dwindle, then there is this type of energy dragging and dissipating that in the metaphysical sense causes the slowing of the progress until it becomes as if no progress can be made. Is there a further query, my brother? That's excellent. One shorter one. So I had described the sinkhole as a collective gravity well, and that it seems to have its own gravity and exert a pull upon an entity who may desire to escape it, either positively or negatively, almost as if it has a self-preservational instinct. Would you say this is true? And if so, is this why pure positivity and pure negativity tend not to have little staying power in our world? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. We find that the gravity well of indifference is that which operates upon the spiritual level, much as you might say peer pressure operates socially upon entities within a third density environment, where the reproduction of behaviors and thoughts of entities surround one seems to be the best way to proceed. For the third density entity begins with the desire to be appreciated and valued by those about it, and instead of initiating its own behavior, will then reproduce the behavior that it perceives being exhibited by those that are within its evidence reach or realm of experience. The negatively oriented entities, however, have the ability to create a kind of gravity well of negativity that can draw entities into it for the benefit of those at the apex of the negative polarity, those who have the greater power and separation from others and control over others. This type of gravity well is that which entities drawn into it are more likened unto victims of the negatively oriented polarity that is at the apex of the negative grouping or well of negativity. This indeed would make it difficult to polarize in the positive sense by any entity that had such a desire if it was located within the evident reach of such negatively oriented entities. Pure positivity, however, has a lesser effect in the expressing and energizing of positivity among others. For as the negative entities do not allow the expression of free will, the positively oriented entities feel that the expression of free will is paramount in all of their creation, and make room for it, and indeed exercise it freely, so that entities within a spiritually positive environment would then feel the inspiration of such an environment, and would be fairly likely to join such because it felt in their own beingness to be the path to follow. However, if they had any desire to move upon another path, the positively oriented entities would not prohibit such, but would bless the choice to move in another direction. Is there a further query, my brother? That was awesome, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. I have a follow-up to that line of thinking. Integral theorists like Ken Wilber believe that society revolves along a similar path as individuals and goes generally in a more positive direction. Martin Luther King Jr. described this by saying, "I think the arc of the moral universe bends slowly, but it bends towards justice." I would interpret that as seeming like the gravity well of indifference also bends more towards a more enlightened view, or a positive view, as our society has implemented things like civil rights and more freedoms for minorities and attempts to become more accepting of other cultures and things of that nature. Do attempts to change society to seem more positive and become more accepting in society make it easier for people to then escape the gravity well of indifference, as then they have the social habits that are more accepting and in line with positive thinking? Or is it always just as difficult to escape that gravity well because they still have to make the conscious choice and not do it out of habit, if that makes sense? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. Indeed, the efforts of positively oriented entities and groups such as the one mentioned, Martin Luther King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, provide examples of optimistic outcomes for change in society that can be apprehended by the greater population of society and provide an opportunity for the feeling of rightness within the very soul of each being to express itself upon the energetic level of moving the self outward from the self in the expression of the desire to serve other selves. Thus, this is a means by which any entity within the larger culture may find itself within the gravity well of indifference to find a lifeline, shall we say, thrown to it by such efforts as this entity and many others. For all entities have within them this spark of recognition of the one who is all, existing within them and within every other entity as well. This beginning spark of recognition, however, is more able to express itself in a greater burning flame when it sees such examples as the one known as Martin Luther King put upon the stage, shall we say, of the society, so that the acts are seen to be those which are acceptable and inspirational, and which can be initiated upon any level by any entity within the third density illusion. Many, however, prefer to remain within the sinkhole of indifference, or even to move in opposition to such efforts if their own mental complexes have been biased in such a manner as to see some reason whereby all entities cannot benefit from the society at large, that all entities are not indeed the same, that all entities are not the one infinite creator. There has been for many entities within the sinkhole of indifference a kind of coloring of the perception through which the world is seen, so that there is seen to be a difference that makes some greater and some lesser, and the self seen to be in the greater portion of the division. However, unable to move beyond the own self-perceived limits that are encasing the entity within the deleterious images, self-created and self-maintained. Is there another query, my brother? We have one sent in from Luis, who asks a two-part question. First part, can Quo please share some insights into the lessons of 7th density? What lessons do late 6th density beings strive for as they prepare to graduate? And since Ra confirmed there are many sixth density wanderers on our planet, how may some of these lessons play out in daily life in the third density planet? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. If we understand the query correctly, the lessons of the seventh density are those which have been well learned in all previous densities, so that there is a refinement within the seventh density that sees the love of the fourth density balanced with the wisdom of the fifth density, producing a power of the sixth density that allows the entity moving into the seventh density to begin to move back into complete unity with the one infinite creator through a process that may be seen to be endless in nature. This endless nature of the eternal present then becomes a kind of expansion of consciousness to include all of the one infinite creation for each seventh density entity. This gaining of spiritual mass then, within each seventh density entity within its own social memory complex, is that which infuses all of the creation of consciousness with the entirety or the unity of the one infinite creator, so that each individual entity and each social memory complex expands infinitely outward as you would see it, so that it becomes all that is. As you have stated in the query, there are six density wanderers upon this planetary sphere at this time. Indeed, most wanderers are indeed of the sixth density nature, for it takes a great deal of courage to come into this environment at this time, most especially, and these entities then find within themselves the desire to be of service to the third density population of your planet. This type of service is that which is called upon and called for by the population of your planet. As the entities are experiencing the incarnation as wanderers within the third density illusion, what is called for at the time of their incarnation and awakening as being wanderers is a kind of beingness, which allows them also to expand in a certain fashion so that their light vibrations begin to lighten the vibrations of the planet Earth. The Earth is engulfed in much of the separation and lack of knowledge of the unity of all things, so that the separation in mind, body, and spirit produces a kind of darkness that is relieved in some measure by the vibrations of each wanderer, be it sixth, fifth, or fourth density. The wanderer then is able to polarize much more powerfully within its own personal journey, as it is not only provided the ability to lighten the planetary vibrations, but brings with it various talents that might be exercised in service to others, whether they be teachers or meditators or take part in the third density community of organizing drives for the poor to receive food, to receive housing, to receive medical care. Sixth density wanderers can exert their love and light vibrations in many and sundry ways in the third density illusion, and in this expression of their desire to serve others, then move ever more steadily forward into potentially being able to enter the seventh density as they return to their home density after the incarnation upon this planet is complete. Is there a further query, my brother? He has a very short follow-up and asks, is the Logos that created our galaxy a seventh density being? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. The Logos of this galaxy and any galaxy is a being of completeness that does not take part in the evolutionary process that those entities such as yourselves are engaged in at this time. Each Logos is a being of complete 8 densities that has the ability to shine this completeness of its creation in a manner which infuses each portion of the creation that it has created with the love and light of the one infinite creator, so that there is within its creation the means by which each conscious entity or intelligence may pursue its own journey of seeking in unity with the one infinite creator. This path of unity, then, is that which is created by each Logos, being the path through the densities of experience. This, then, will allow the Logos and the one infinite creator to gain from each entity's free will choices the knowledge of the complete nature of each Logos, the knowledge of each portion of the intelligence that the Logos has created then provides to the Logos and to the one infinite creator experiences that expand the knowledge of all that is, so that it becomes more than all that is at any particular moment in what you would call time. Is there a final query at this time? I've got one quote. That should be substantial. Ra said that wanderers become completely the creature of third density and mind-body complex. If that's the case, Where within the self is the repository of the wanderer's identity and experience and polarity and memory? Is it within the spirit complex of the entity? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. Each wanderer incarnates into the third density experience and goes through the same veil of forgetting that each other entity goes through. This veil of forgetting then seemingly hides the true nature of all entities that go through it, so that they appear within the third density to be ordinary mind-body-spirit complexes, with the simple desire to be and to move forward in some fashion of growth of mind, of body, and spirit. The wanderer has, as does any entity moving through the veil of forgetting, pre-incarnative choices that have been selected in order to provide the service that it wishes to offer, as well as personal opportunities for growth. These choices are manifested for the wanderer as they are for any other entity within the third density illusion as the proceedings of the life experience, so that any entity, wanderer or otherwise, may look at those occasions of catalyst that come in the daily round of activities as being that which is predestined, shall we say, predestined to provide opportunities for growth and service. The wanderer has the, shall we call it, advantage of having a spirit complex that is advanced in progression. So if it desires, it may be informed in some fashion through the intuition by the spirit complex to discover that it is, shall we say, not from here, that it is somehow different in a positive sense, not better, but different. This difference then becomes, for many wanderers, the seed that grows into conscious exploration of what this difference could be, and how this difference could be utilized in service to others, which the wanderer feels as an intuitive direction to travel. Thus, the feeling of being here on a mission, shall we say, becomes a focal point for the wanderer, in that it expands the point of view. The point of view then becomes that which is discussed internally and examined internally in contemplation and in meditation. This then informs the mind, the body, and the spirit that it has a function to perform that is of a great service to others, and this becomes the guiding light, shall we say, that inner light, which shines upon the heart and opens the heart in a more dependable sense so that the wanderer may feel a kind of loving acceptance, not only of the self, but also of all other selves that it finds in its daily round of activities. Thus, the growing sense of love and sense of personal mission then combine to provide a kind of spiritual food for the being of the wanderer that then expresses itself through the mind, through the body, and through the spirit, thus aiding the wanderer in its chosen service and in its own personal polarization. At this time, we would thank each one again for inviting our presence in your circle of seeking this day. As always, you have provided us with much food for thought and joyful expression of the love that we feel in each heart directed toward us and toward all of the creation. We feel your beingness expanding outward in an inevitable sense, so that we all are indeed truly one, each with the other, and with the all that is in all. We are known to you as those of Quo. We leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Adonai Vasu Boragas. There's so much to unpack with these amazing channelings and questions that they asked during this channeling. To begin with, we get an understanding of the New Age energies. One of the really fascinating parts of the raw material and the Law of One story is that when Carla would channel, and she would unconsciously channel, so she was completely out, and they had to line her body up at a certain angle, 20 degrees north. They had a pyramid outside and it lined up perfectly, and that was the way for her to receive these channelings. And so they're saying now that that was because the fourth density energies were so far away in space, and we were moving as a planet towards these fourth density energies. And so now it's just completely encapsulated the planet. They were able to focus in on those energies when they were channeling. And now everybody has access to them, both negative and positive. And that's why the world is changing in such a way, and that's why everything is so much more intense than back then, where it was just like a laser beam of just a small amount of energy that was coming at them. The main focus of this channeling is the Sinkhole of Indifference, which to me is a fascinating and troublesome concept, really. The idea is So many people on this planet are not awakening. So many people on this planet are not going through their spiritual journey. And according to the law of one material, that means if you don't choose to be of service to yourself or others, that you have to redo a 75,000 year cycle. You come to this planet and you live here for essentially 800 incarnations or 75,000 years. And eventually in all that time, your soul evolves to a point where it consciously chooses, hey, I want to be service to others or service to self. And there is this sinkhole of indifference. And I say it's unfair. I think I was caught up in it. I think we all are caught up in it on this planet because we don't know that there's more out there. That's why it's important to listen to and read channelings like this, because people need to be aware that there is another level of consciousness that is available to us. Many people don't know that. They go through their daily lives, they have habits, they go to work 9 to 5, they come home, watch TV, drink a few beers, go to sleep, and they live their normal lives, and they never ever deal with the catalyst that is given them. The major moments in their life where they learn spiritual lessons, they ignore them. And so what happens? They have to repeat a cycle. They keep going through third density experiences. We may even have to go to another planet. And it just keeps going on and on. One of the reasons I'm so motivated with my channel is to awaken people. We're at the end of a 75,000 year cycle, and you have a chance right now to awaken on your spiritual journey, to make a choice. That choice is between service to self and service to others. And if you can choose service to others, which is the positive path, there is such an amazing level of consciousness available to you and a social memory complex that's forming on this planet of a very small group of people that are of the love and light that is so powerful that it's really the next step. It's the next level of consciousness that is so powerful. And the majority of the planet is in this sinkhole. And the implication of this channeling is it's sort of like gravity. The environment around you, the people around you kind of suck you into this indifference. So you don't awaken. You're not even aware of it. You don't even know that there's this higher level. So I'm crying out to all of you, whoever listens to this, please know there's this amazing level of consciousness, a new earth that is available to you. And all you have to do is make a choice. Choose to be of service to others. And so many wonderful things will happen. It happened for me. Service to self is the negative path. You can choose to go into a higher level of service to self, which would be a planet that is like a Game of Thrones type existence where everybody's competing against each other. It's wars, it's battles, it's manipulation. That's the service to self path. But the service to others path is love, it's light, it's an amazing path of light that's available to all of us. Whatever path that you choose, that is available to us, especially in this moment, because we have these enhanced energies that allow us to awaken to the catalyst around us. It's interesting, they asked about manifestation. Few times we've had, quote, discuss the law of attraction, and they really don't like to talk about the law of attraction, if you'll notice. Really, their emphasis is attract heaven, attract God. Don't get caught up in attracting certain things to your life. But you can attract things into your life to allow you to be of greater service, which I thought was a good way to ask that question. There is some additional information here that we get at the end that discusses wanderers. And it's really fascinating. We have a number of starseeds or wanderers, people who have reincarnated from the 6th density, something that you'll enter into millions of years in the future, in order to move up to the 7th density. And in that 6th density, you have learned all these lessons, you've lived all these lives, you've moved past the 3rd density. But you take this huge chance to move back to 3rd density. And the reason it's a huge chance is if you end up getting caught up in the karma of the situation, you can get pulled all the way back down to 3rd density and have to start a 75,000 year cycle all over again after moving up a spiritual path for millions and millions of years. So I find it fascinating that a lot of the wanderers that are coming to the planet are of the 6th density trying to graduate into 7th density. Very little is discussed about seventh density. Essentially, you're entering into a density of oneness. Another really cool fact here is that the Logos, or the sun, which created our solar system, or the Logos, which created the galaxy, is a complete being from the eighth density, meaning it's gone through all these densities. There is a density after seventh, one in which you reach the oneness of the creator. The eighth density beings that are essentially running our solar system, that are part of the Council of Nine, and they know very little about this eighth density existence. So many little things that are a part of the law of one material I find fascinating, particularly discussions of the eighth density. I would love to know your favorite part of this channeling, or if this enlightened you to anything. If you have any questions that you'd love to ask Quo, let me know. I mean, I like to ask questions too. I'd like to start, maybe send some questions into LL Research, and we can have some additional questions. They're still channeling on a regular basis. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.